Hey everybody, it's X, and welcome back to some Momir's Madness. It's time for some more chaotic RNG madness. We'll see what random creatures we get, what random creatures our opponents get. If you are uninformed on the format, everybody has a deck with nothing but basic lands, but once per turn, during your turn, you can spend X mana, discard a card, and get a random creature with converted mana cost X. So it's basically Magic, just completely randomized. So, a lot of pretty large, crazy board states with a lot of random creatures you don't see too often, and a lot of explosive plays later in the game, as you and your opponent do get to just keep spamming out like 8 mana creatures against each other. So, starting off this game, I've got a Jadelight Ranger at 3 mana, which explores twice when it enters the battlefield, which is actually pretty strong in this format. Because drawing cards is pretty good in this format. You get to essentially get to higher mana costs if you draw more cards. Because every turn, you ideally want to play a land and discard a card. So that's 2 cards a turn that you're spending. And obviously you only draw 1 card a turn, so eventually you will run out of cards, unless you have some good card draw like this. So pretty good start here. And if you'll notice, my opponent and myself did not start playing cards until turn 3, and the reason for that is twofold. First of all, the lower mana cost cards, 1 mana and 2 mana cards, are very likely to be weaker cards that become irrelevant very quickly in the game. Like, if I make a 1 mana card, I love how Biogenic Ooze just makes a weird little fart sound. I just think I gotta throw that in there. If you make a 1 mana card, it's very likely gonna be just a 1/1, or maybe a 2/2 if you're lucky. That just becomes immediately irrelevant as soon as someone plays a 2 or 3 mana card that's like a 2/2 or a 3/3. And same for the 2-drops, just in general, they're pretty weak. It is possible to get really lucky and get something very impactful at 1 or 2 mana, like Llanowar Elves or Incubation Druid to ramp you up in mana, but it's just not super likely, so usually it's best to skip them for that reason. And the second reason you want to skip the early drops is because, as I said before, since you are playing a land and discarding a card basically every turn... Why did I discard the forest? That was pretty dumb. Because I may have gotten a 3rd forest at some point to be able to make some oozes. Anyways, what I was saying was, since you're playing a card and discarding a card every single turn, you will eventually run out of cards, and basically every card that you play, every card you discard to make a creature, is card that you've discarded that could have been a bigger creature later, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I could discard a land on turn 1 to make a 1/1, or I could wait and discard that land later at 3 mana and make a 3 mana card, you know? 5, 6, 7. Alright, 7 mana, let's go. Alright, Drakuzeth is pretty great here. If I attack with this Mammoth, it's got 8 power, 8 toughness, so they can't kill it unless they block with Niv Mizzet. Because they could block with the 3/7 and the 4/4, and that would just be 7 damage to it, so I will send in that Mammoth. They can't block it unless they lose their 5/5 flyer, which I am definitely okay with. And it's actually not a massive punt that I discarded that forest, because it's not super likely that I will want to just make oozes. Because, yeah, I could spend 4 mana to make an ooze that'll get larger over the game, or I could just spend all of my mana into a larger creature that's just large immediately. So it's pretty unlikely I actually want to be in a situation where I'm using this ability. But playing a forest would have been better than discarding it, because you do still want to try to focus your lands towards the abilities you actually have on board, just in case. Because that's mildly more useful than just playing a random plains or something. Because there could be a situation where I do want to start using that ability. Alright, so our 7 mana card is insane. It is a 7/7 flyer. Whenever it attacks, does 4 to any target and 3 to 2 other targets. So that's gonna be insanely hard to beat. That is a 5/5 reach, which is not big enough to block it and survive. So we are off to a really good start in the end game here. In most games of Momir, the end game is where the game really starts, unless somebody has managed to get a decent amount of flyers earlier in the game. Ooh, that's sick. So Polyraptor, whenever it's dealt damage, I get to create a token that's a copy of it. So with Dracuzith, I can deal 3 to my own Polyraptor just to make another copy of it, which is really good. Quite the combo there. And there is the scoop from our opponent, which is fine. I mean, we did get quite a bit more lucky than them. It was going to be really hard to get out of that situation. In Momir, if you're trying really hard to win, I would recommend not scooping as much as you would in a regular game. Because honestly, the format is pretty insane and you really never know what you're going to get. Like at 8 mana, which I think they had, they could have just played a random 8-drop next turn. And maybe, it's not super likely, but maybe they could have gotten Hoverguard Sweepers, which is a 5/6 flyer that bounces 2 cards back to their hand. And if you return a creature token to its owner's hand, that card just dies. So they could have gotten a 5/6 flyer that just kills Dracuzeth, and whatever my next biggest threat is, probably just Biogenic Ooze at that point, and really turned the game around if they got really lucky there. Like, it's not a high % chance, but you can give yourself that shot if you don't concede super prematurely. Or don't concede as fast as you would in other formats, where you just like know there's no out. In Momir, you never really know. Especially because they added a bunch of cards just specifically for the higher mana costs in Momir, just to diversify them, such as Hoverguard Sweepers that I just mentioned. That is a card that is only in Momir on Magic Arena. Ooh, Nightpack Ambusher is a very good 4-drop to get. That is going to make a Wolf every one of their end steps, because they're never going to cast spells. They're just going to use the Factory of Momir Big to create creatures, which isn't actually casting a spell. So that's a pretty good card to get. However, I'm off to a great start with flyers here. Got a Shalai and a Rock Charger. And Rock Charger can turn any of my just really big later threats into a flying monstrosity. Like if I randomly just get an Ancient Brontodon, which is like just a 9/9 with no abilities, being able to send that thing in the air is going to be very powerful. So this is actually a really interesting start. We've both got quite a strong field out. Bishop of Rebirth, not so good, just a 3/4 with Vigilance. No relevant abilities on that. Alright. I am going to go ahead and save these forests, start discarding the other cards first, because later in the game I may want to use Shalai's alternate ability to start putting a +1/+1 counter onto all of my cards. I can send in Shalai. They only have a 2/3 they only have a 2/3 reach to block it, but I think it's a little safer to not, because now I can at least block their 3/3s and kill them without losing a creature. And our field is getting pretty scary. The fact that they get 2 creatures a turn thanks to that Nightpack Ambusher is pretty devastating. And an Immortal Phoenix is a good card for them to pick up here. It is just a 5/3 flyer. The ability does not work on a creature token, but a 5/3 flyer is pretty big. So we'll go ahead and play our forest here. Now we've got the mana to use Shalai. However, our opponent has so many creatures and they're going to keep going really wide on us. I don't think we'll have the time to use Shalai's ability anytime soon, at the very least. Atali is not as cool as it looks like. It's just a 6 mana 6/6 in Momir, as there are no non-land cards, and those are the only cards that Atali gets to cast for free. Opponent is at 7 mana. Agent of Treachery is gonna just end us on the spot. There goes our Shalai. That's basically all we had going for us here. And yeah, I mean, we're in a really, really bad spot now. Because now all of their stuff has hexproof except Shalai, which means even if we get some kind of removal spell, all we can do is kill Shalai and that's it. So this is pretty awful. Don't think we're chumping with the Rock Charger yet. Down to 9 life. I mean, they have very, very much got lethal on us, especially if they play a forest next turn. So we gotta get something insane here. I guess at 6 mana we have a chance of getting Rakdos, which just randomly destroys creatures. So if we get like 0.0000001% chance lucky, like that insanely lucky, we could get a Rakdos and kill all their creatures. At 7 mana there is Chaos Maw, which comes in as a 6/6 and does 3 damage to everything, which could save us for a little bit, but not permanently. I guess, you know, we'll just spend all our mana, go for a 7-drop, maybe we get Chaos Maw, and there's definitely, I don't have an encyclopedia-sized, like, knowledge of all of the cards in the game, so I have no idea. Maybe there's something else at 7 that could save us, but Tashana is not that. We are very brutally dead on board here. Opponent goes for 8 mana, picks up a Verdant Force, another very strong card. At the beginning of each upkeep, they get a 1/1 Sapperling. What is the most damage I can stop? Just to be 100% sure I did the best I could. There we go. And now we are super dead. Alright. So we kind of got slam dunked there. But that is how it goes. Sometimes you slam, and sometimes you get slammed. That was dumb. That was not a not a real quote. That's not a thing anyone says. Alright, heading into game 3. 1 win and 1 loss on the board. So, if we lose this, this is it. It'll be another 1-2 run. I suppose I shouldn't say that, because that's mild spoilers if you didn't watch my second Momir video and you still want to. Now it's all been spoiled. But I feel like you could kind of already get the gist of about how many wins and losses it's going to be based on the length of it. But you never know for sure. I mean, some Momir games can go really fast. If someone just gets a lot of flyers and the other person doesn't, like, it can end in a snap. Straight up, you could get a 3-mana 2/2 flyer and then like a 4-mana 4/3 flyer, and your opponent could just get like 3-mana 2/2 on the ground, and then, ooh, well, that's really bad for me. That is really bad for me. That is a Draconic Disciple. The most important part is that that can tap for a mana of any color, which means our opponent gets to ramp up into higher mana costs very quickly here. Octo Prophet. Well, you are just useless. I guess I'll keep the mountain. I do like to play primarily mountains in this format. I like to have one of each, just in case, and then mostly play mountains unless I have an ability on the board that wants a specific color of mana. Because with mountains, you can use pretty impactful abilities, like Shivan Dragon, Cavalier Flames, Kazarov, and Sakama, stuff like that. 4/2 Haste Mentor. That's pretty good right now. I get to make one of these dudes a 4/4. I think my best plan is to just get as aggressive as possible. I put them down to 10 life here. Just try and outrace them before they play anything too scary off the Disciple. However, since we were on the play, the Disciple doesn't make them that much better. They're essentially playing... Basically, Disciple made it so, like, they're on the play. Like, they are playing the 6-drop right before we play the 6-drop. But it's not so bad as it would be, like, if they were on the play and they got Draconic's Disciple, that's, like... That's when you're in a really, really big amount of trouble. Because when that happens, you're going to play a 5-drop, and then your opponent plays a 7-drop on their turn. That's when things are really busted. Alright, 7 mana. Howling Giant. That is basically entirely going to slow me down. We are now into a late game of Momir, where the board is all stalled up, and it all depends on who gets the power cards. Fleet Swallower. Fleet Swallower's cool, but I do not think we're going to win with a Fleet Swallower. That's probably just going to sit here and block. The best that's going to do is mill them 22 cards, which is not nothing, but it's highly unlikely that the game takes long enough that sacrificing this to mill them 22 is worth it instead of just saving it as a blocker. That'll put them on a 22-turn clock, but probably not worth it. And Zatalpa is really bad. Really bad. That's a 4/8 flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. It's very hard to deal with, but you can deal with it at 7 mana. Or 8 mana, I mean. If you have anything that will exile a creature or return a creature to its owner's hand, you can kill Zatalpa with that. And there is some stuff. We've got a Gishath. Gishath is not going to solve that. They have 5 blockers, we have 5 attackers. It's probably still not good to attack. If I attack, they can block Gishath with Zatalpa, take no damage there, and I lose Gishath. They go Chomp, the 6/6, block my 4/4 with their 4/5, block my 4/5 with the 5/5, and then they just block this with a 2/2. Yeah, attacking is pretty bad here. They have profitable blocks for sure. And our opponent is at 9 mana now. They have... I want to read this card. The White Bringer. Bringer of the White Dawn. Which does nothing. It's a 5/5 trample. And its ability does not do anything. Alright. 8 mana, here we go. Hoverguard Sweepers, 1 time. I've only said your name like 5,000 times and never gotten you. End-Raze Forerunners isn't nothing. Might be lethal, and that's our only hope. If this isn't lethal, we're basically dead on the crackback. We'll go to 1 life. So, we gotta hope this is lethal. And math is for blockers, so we're going in. This card is insane in Momir. Absolutely bonkers. Can really end the game. Give your whole field +2/+2 vigilance trample. Super, super strong. Alright, it looks like it's lethal. It looks like it's lethal. But yeah, End-Raze Forerunners is a very, very quality card for Momir. Because so many of the games do end up in gigantic stalemates like that, where we both have a bunch of creatures on the ground, and no one can really attack super well. If you get an End-Raze Forerunners, that can turn that right around and make attacking very profitable. And oftentimes even lethal. Alright, 2 wins, 1 loss, let's go. Alright, let's start it up at 3, as you do. Noxious Grudian. 2/2 Death Touch. Not the worst in the world. It's definitely going to be good in the later game. There's a lot of big creatures that'll come out, as you've seen, and that'll make attacking pretty hard. However, our opponent did get a Rosethorn Acolyte, which is fantastic. This is our second opponent in a row who's gotten a Mana Dork, and that is going to be pretty powerful. Now we got an Ironclad Crowbot. Well, we can block really well. I suppose we should have attacked with the Grudian. I think trading the Grudian for the Mana Dork is super fine by my standards, so that would probably just be a free 2 damage in there. So if our opponent wins this game with like 2 health left, then we misplayed pretty bad. Now, Direfleet Ravager really speeds things up. Everyone loses a third of their life, so now we're just both at 13. The unlucky 13. It's also got Menace and Death Touch, which is scary. Ooh. Whatever, man. If I get a 5/5 Trample Haste, let's just go. Let's just go. If we're gonna be at 13 life, let's have a spat then. Hit you for 5, put you down to 8. And we trade our scariest creatures for each other. That was a pretty nice 5-drop. That was a Charging Monster Sword, 5 mana, 5/5 Trample Haste. Let's see what our opponent gets at 5. Oh my good lord. Or 6, I mean. 6/6 Hexproof, Flying, Vigilance, Trample. Well. And that has Hexproof until it deals damage to me, so if it deals damage, then we could possibly get a Meteor Golem, or an Agent of Treachery or something, but otherwise, that'll probably kill us. But thanks to that Direfleet Ravager, like, we still have a chance of just outracing our opponent. It's not a super high chance, but our 6-drop helps. If this is dealt damage at all, it does 3 damage to our opponent. So even if they block this 5/4, they take 3 from it. However, Palladium Ores having Vigilance puts us on a really fast clock. Like a really fast clock. So we get to put them to 1 life. We get to put them to 1 life here. So, I mean, if we get a haste creature, they're just dead. Oops. Let's see what we can get here. Monderigaz, big old flying haste dragon, let's go. Verdant Sun's avatar is really good in this position. Yeah, I'm gonna put him to 1. It's okay to let them just eat our dudes if we can put them to 1 here. Now, anything that we get to, anything that we get that'll deal 1 damage in any way will kill them. And we're just going to be going for 7-drops. Which is fine. 7-drops aren't too much worse than 8-drops. There's a lot of powerful stuff. You can hit Meteor Golems, you can hit Agent of Treacheries, as we lost to in another game. Lots of scary things. Ooh, they're just sending everybody in. They're just sending everybody in. Does force a block here. Getting a haste creature was really, really good for them this turn. That actually puts me in a really bad spot. I guess I'm sacking Grudian and hoping for Derrygaz, Flying Haste Trample. And that's our best wish here. Yeah, we're very dead. We're super dead. Oh, so close. So close, but so far away. All the way down to that 1 life there. Well, that is gonna end today's Momir video. Looks like we did get a good reward, though. We got a rare Knight of Autumn, and it's a pretty strong one. Definitely good in a lot of ways. Very versatile card. Main deckable artifact and enchantment hate, as well as being just a 3-mana 4/3, or being good against red decks, gaining you 4 life. So, again, thank you all for watching this next round of Momir's insanity, and I'll see you all again very soon.